Imagine a story where unbridled ambition, cruelty, and betrayal lead to the darkest possible outcome. Some women in the Bible not only marked their generations with their wicked deeds, but also sealed their own fates with tragic and often horrifying deaths. Have you ever wondered how these women met their end? Welcome to the Details of the Scriptures channel. Today, we will delve deeply into the history of the 5 worst women in the Bible and discover how their choices led them to a bitter end. Throughout this video, you will see that although God is merciful, there are times when divine judgment manifests in an overwhelming way. Get ready to learn about the tragic destinies of women who used their power and influence for evil and paid a very high price for it. Stay until the end because each of these stories brings lessons that still resonate today. After all, how often do unchecked ambition and a lack of fear of God still lead people to ruin? Share your thoughts in the comments about these stories and whether any of them brought you a special reflection. Now, without further ado, let's move on to the first woman on our list. Jezebel, the queen who defied God. Jezebel may be the most infamous woman in the Bible. As the wife of King Ahab, she not only encouraged the worship of Baal in Israel, but also persecuted and killed the Lord's prophets. Her corrupting influence over the people was immense, and her arrogance made her believe she would never face consequences. However, Elijah's prophecy foretold a terrible fate for this ruthless queen. Her flesh would be devoured by dogs, and she would not even have an honorable burial. But Jezebel ignored God's warnings. Years passed, and her wickedness only grew. She used her position to manipulate and destroy those she saw as obstacles, like Naboth, a righteous man who was unjustly condemned to death so that Ahab could take his vineyard. Her cruelty seemed limitless, and her heart hardened against any possibility of repentance. However, judgment came. After Ahab's death, Jehu, a commander anointed by God, marched against Jezebel's palace. In a desperate attempt to maintain power, Jezebel adorned herself, painted her eyes, and tried to seduce Jehu, but he was not deceived. He ordered her servants to throw her out the window, and Jezebel fell to a fatal height. Her blood splattered on the walls and horses which trampled her body. Later, when they went to collect her body for burial, they found only her skull, hands, and feet. The dogs had devoured the rest. Thus the prophecy was fulfilled, and Jezebel disappeared from Israel without honor, reduced to nothing. Her story is a dire warning about the dangers of arrogance and wickedness. Do you believe there are still people today who follow in Jezebel's footsteps? Delilah, the woman who betrayed the strongest man in the world. Delilah is remembered as the woman who destroyed Samson, the most powerful judge of Israel. Her story is marked by manipulation and betrayal. When bribed by the Philistines, she agreed to uncover the secret of Samson's strength, knowing it would lead to his destruction. She repeatedly tried to deceive Samson, asking him what gave him his strength. Even after he lied to her to mislead her, Delilah persisted, using her charm and persistence to get the real answer. Finally, Samson gave in and revealed that his strength lay in his hair. That same night, Delilah made him sleep on her lap, called a man to cut his locks, and handed him over to the Philistines, who blinded and imprisoned him. But Delilah's fate was also sealed. Years later, Samson, now blind and humiliated, was brought to a Philistine temple as an object of mockery. The Philistines celebrated their victory over him, and Delilah, who likely lived under the protection of her new masters, was among those present. However, Samson prayed to God for strength one last time and collapsed the temple's pillars, killing thousands, including Delilah. Although the Bible does not directly mention her death, it is almost certain that she was crushed along with the Philistines, dying the same way as those who had bribed her. Delilah thought her betrayal would bring her power and security, but in the end, she perished with those she served. How often do we see people who, out of greed, betray those who trust them the most? Athaliah, the queen who exterminated her own family. Athaliah was one of the most cruel women in the Bible. She was Jezebel's daughter and followed the same wicked ways as her mother. When her son, King Ahaziah, died, Athaliah took the throne of Judah for herself and, in an act of pure evil, ordered the execution of all her grandchildren to ensure no one could challenge her. However, one grandson, Joash, was saved by his aunt and raised in secret. For 6 years, Athaliah ruled with an iron fist, spreading idolatry and injustice in Judah. But her reign ended when the high priest Jehoiada revealed that Joash was still alive and crowned him king. Athaliah tried to resist, but was captured and executed at the Horse Gate, an unworthy place for a queen. Thus ended the story of the woman who tried to destroy her own lineage to maintain power. Her end was a reflection of her ruthless choices. Do you think the thirst for power can lead people to commit extreme acts like Athaliah? Herodias, the woman who demanded John the Baptist's head. Herodias was responsible for one of the most infamous murders in the Bible. She despised John the Baptist because he condemned her illegitimate marriage to Herod Antipas. Driven by resentment, she used her daughter Salome to demand the prophet's head on a platter. But her story did not have a glorious ending. After John the Baptist's death, Herod lost power and was exiled. Herodias followed her husband into disgrace and died far from the palaces and luxuries she once loved. Her story shows that the desire for revenge can lead to irreversible consequences. Have you ever seen people who, blinded by hatred, end up destroying themselves? Lot's wife, the one who looked back. Among the women who met a tragic end in the Bible, Lot's wife stands out. Her story is brief, but her fate serves as one of the most powerful warnings about the importance of obedience to God. During the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, God sent angels to rescue Lot and his family, instructing them to flee without looking back. However, despite the divine warning, Lot's wife, driven by nostalgia, attachment to the past, or perhaps hesitation to leave behind everything she knew, disobeyed and looked back. The moment she did, she was turned into a pillar of salt. Her fate is a severe reminder that earthly attachments and disobedience can lead to destruction. Her story compels us to reflect. How often do we look back, clinging to what God has already commanded us to leave behind? These 5 women met tragic ends because they defied God and lived according to their own desires. Their stories serve as warnings for all of us. What do we learn from them? Are we walking paths that lead us away from the truth? Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also, turn on the notification bell to be alerted about our posts. See you in the next video.